Good evening and welcome to the Eve Prosper Market Show. I'm your host Lockefox, and I'm here with another week of market news from Eve Online. So there's been a lot of action in the markets this week, so I want to go ahead and blitz through some of the header stuff for you guys so we can get straight into the important news. First, really quick, some show news. If you guys want to tune into the show, all you got to remember is Eve Prosper. That will get you to Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and the blog. If you want to support the show directly, feel free to stop by our Patreon at patreon.com/Eve Prosper. Your support really does mean a lot to us. It keeps the lights on. It keeps development going. And everybody who can support that way, we really appreciate. Otherwise, share the show with your friends and tune in every week at 0200 on Fridays until the daylight savings time change for your weekly fix for market news. With that, next week is our 1-year anniversary, and I want to go ahead and do a little bit of a contest. I'm going to see if I can wrangle a few Plex together. Probably going to do something like I did a few months ago that was the Share Your Market stories. So if the show has helped you make a buck or has lost you a buck even, I would really love to hear those stories. I won't have a link this week, but get your stuff prepared for next week. I'll announce the whole thing next week. Also, I wanted to return the shout out to the New Eden Update show. Again, if you guys are wanting to keep up with up-to-the-day news, New Eden Update is really a great place to do it. They're short, they're sweet, they're to the point, and I believe right now they're also doing the Open Comm show over on the Matani.com's Twitch channel, so go check that out. But not during my live show, because, come on, you guys want to know about where the market's going, right? With that, I don't have a ton of news this week, like real news. A lot of the things I've heard have been hearsay or just podcasts have been coming out. The new launcher has launched, but that's really not economic news. So I'm going to default to the New Eden Update guys for specifics on some of the finer points of the news. I didn't see anything this week that was really jarring for market news, but there are some rumblings going on, and I want to remind people that capitals and super capitals are going to be a big topic at Eve Vegas, and you still have a couple of weeks to lock in your bets. So there are some rumors going around out there, and I don't know how much to believe any of them, but we'll cover that later in the show. I've got a decent section dedicated to capitals, so we'll get there. With that, since we pretty much skipped the news, let's move right on to Plex. Plex has been moving down. We saw last week, over the last 2 weeks, we've had a Plex sale going on with a discount on Plex in real life. But it looks like that sale may be coming to an end as we bottomed out in the 1.12 billion range and are tracking up slightly. I think that we're in a healthier place for Plex. We're still pretty high if we go look at the 1-year view. Even if we straight line from September 1st when the rally started to the valley that we're at, that's still a pretty steep slope. It's not extraordinary anymore. It has lost a lot of the steam. I still think that the 1.15 price is just a touch too high, but we should, in the next 2 weeks, I would redact that statement and say that we're just early to the price. And if you guys have been tuning into the show regularly, this is a common prediction, is that I can tell you where Plex will be. I just have a really hard time of telling you when it will be there. So let's go ahead and look at the RMT token market, and things are pretty quiet. Again, we saw this sustained pattern, and you guys really need to go get out on this one. The multiple pilot training certificates are experience a very interesting pattern where we see, as soon as Plex crashes, the training certificates remain high on sell orders. That action does not tend to get reflected in buy orders, but this last period, since the multi-buy order functionality has been released, the margins have been closing. So this one, the action, it might be hard to get in on the action at the moment, especially with as much competition as there probably is in buy orders. But this is a really compelling way to hedge your bet against Plex, is that if you know that you'll be on, let's say, daily, and you miss the exact moment when Plex pops, you can follow that by using the multi-pilot training certificates instead, and be able to cushion the fall and get out of the market a little bit without any terrible action. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the buy and sell prices. If I were in the market to buy Plex, if you are needing to stock up, you're not going to get a better chance than this until December. If you can afford to buy some, I would try to buy some. I, again, have a hard time advocating for a huge stockpile. I thought the time to stockpile was sub 1 billion, and now you're a bit late to the party, and you're expecting things to climb pretty high, pretty fast to actually get there. So I wouldn't buy in if you're speculating, but if you need Plex to keep your account active, now is an excellent time to go get in on that, especially on buy orders, especially how easy it is to manage multiple buy orders to play in some of the markets there. I would be getting 2 or 3 or 4 Plex in my stockpile if I needed to replenish it. And then last, we go back to the prediction that I published a few weeks back on the blog that I still owe you guys a how it's made post. I probably should have used the 45-day line instead of the 60-day line, because we're seeing that we're lining up better with the slope now that the bubble is popped, but we're off by the starting factor. So I had mentioned this in the prediction that it was really hard to pick a zero price for this particular period. When I rolled up the dice, I probably would have picked that low at 1.1 billion to reseed it, and if I can get some time, I can recast the predictions at a different viewpoint, and we can do a little bit of comparison. But I wanted to go ahead and leave this up as a tracking factor to see if I'm actually any good at this or not. Moving on to minerals. Minerals have been extremely interesting over the last week. If we start with titanium, I had been saying that the climb up to 6.0 has been normal, that it's been hot, it's been highly valued, it's been trending up, but that I also believe that this was within normal bounds. We smashed through that upper bound at 6.0 pretty solidly, and we're sitting at 6.2. According to the indicators, we could still keep climbing. I have a really hard time predicting a 6.5 in titanium, but if you believe in the capital changes, this might not be a bad chance to jump in. Again, 6.0 to 6.5 isn't a ton of action, but if you need a place to park a lot of money with a low risk factor, titanium might be the way to do it. And if we go look at the buy and sell prices, we're seeing a lot of pressure in the sell prices, indicating that demand is probably outstripping the actual supply, and we're actually seeing a sustained upward trend. It's in a weird spot. It's hard to predict exactly where it's going to go over the next few weeks, especially without any information. But if you want to bet on capitals, minerals are an excellent place to go do so. Moving on to pyrite. This is the one I actually expected to keep trending up. We saw it flag 2 or 3 weeks ago, and also saw Pyrox flag as well. And I was thinking that we'd actually see action up to 12, but we saw it actually lose momentum, just brushing against 11.5 and coming back down to 11.4. This might be a decent chance to buy in on a buy order and try to get under 11.5. Pyrite is also going to be in demand if you believe in capitals and super capitals. It's in less demand because you actually want to keep your hands on the compressed materials more than the raw ones, but if you're out in nullsec and you're a miner, I would be holding on to my low ends. I would be stockpiling them and waiting for the prices to rise, so that if you're selling to a corporate buy program, I would stockpile some of that. I would actually just sit on it for a few weeks. Wait until the Eve Vegas stuff comes out and the prices reset on all the spreadsheets, and I think you'll make a pretty decent extra return for your patience. Next, moving on to Mexilon, and Mexilon has been the darling deer for the last couple of weeks. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I put out a price target to buy sub 55 and sell at 65. I had said also last week that I didn't fully believe that it would go up to 70. And thank you guys for proving me wrong. If we look at the buy and sell prices, there is some really interesting behavior. We saw it climb all the way up to 70, and it's looking like it could still have a little bit of momentum. Actually, no, it's hard to predict if it's going to stay above 70. Sorry. Let's try that again. Looking at the margins as the prices rise, we saw what looks like a big buyout of Mexilon. This happened in Jita. This also happened in Amar, where the price spiked astronomically. Like, everybody just wanted to get in on it. If you want to put on your tinfoil hats, you might want to start speculating about NDA leaks. But at 70, again, if you guys are holding, 55 to 70 is a handsome profit. And I have a hard time believing the price will go down from here. I think 70 is... I think we could fall back down to 65, but I don't really believe we can go much below 65 at the moment. I again have a really hard time predicting 75. That is a long sustained high note, and that's not usually how these speculations go. But also, it might be a case of I'm spoiling it and taking the wind out of Fozzie's sails, that he can't just be like, I said it, and then let's go see what the market did over the minutes since that information leaked. So keep an eye on this one. I would sell at 70 if I were still holding. I think 65 is the basement for the time being. It could continue to go higher, but that is a really hard prediction to make, because that is a lot of action in not a lot of time. It's worn out. If we go back to the previous one, being above this blue line on the bottom is extremely unstable, and predicting that you're going to keep climbing above that line is foolish, traditionally. Moving on to Isogen, the rest of the high ends are pretty boring. Isogen has stayed stable at about 125. It's trending up slightly. Again, we might see some upward pressure to get up to 130, 135. I wouldn't invest in it, though, so it'll be a long, slow rise up if it's going to move. Over to Knox IAM. Knox IAM actually broke out of the bounds I was expecting it to sit in. For the last couple of weeks, I said that it should be bouncing between the 480 and the 520 band. Hot on the weekends, cold on the weekdays. And right now, it's under the 480 line, and this is tempting to buy in at if you wanted to speculate. But Knox IAM, I have a hard time actually advocating for it, because I believe of the higher end materials that you have less pressure to keep the price high, because the value per volume is such that it's not hard to import and export. So the pressure of higher production just doesn't really follow through. This is really driven by supply, by miners mining it. Moving on to Zydrine, not a lot to say again this week. Again, we're just staying right around 1100. Sliding into that as a steady price. Again, I'm going to reiterate that I think that it could go down to 1000. especially if mining activity picks up again in nullsec with the capital stuff, but it also might be that it's actually getting demanded enough that it will be consumed. It'll be consumed in such a volume to balance out the two forces and stay at 1100. I wouldn't invest in this. It's a great time to buy if you need it, but I've never needed that much Zydrene, to be completely honest. And then Megasite, again, just like Zydrene, staying stable at about 1450. And again, not a lot to say here. It might go down after the Vegas prediction, after the Vegas. It might go down after Vegas. It actually probably will go up slightly during Vegas, and then it could go down again as it gets oversupplied again. I would not invest in Megasite. I think it's a loser for the next few months. And then Morphite. I'd been saying for months that this price over 12.5K has been unstable, that there's really just not the demand to keep it that high. And it looks like the market's agreeing with me, dropping the price down to the 12K mark. This would be a great chance to stock up. I'm having a hard time predicting whether it's going to keep falling or bounce back. It could go either way. I'm registering this as a buy if you're a producer, but I would not speculate on it as a money maker if you want to hold it and flip it. And then last, just a quick look at the buy and sell spreads. We're seeing again, we see that huge spike in Mexilon. We see the rise in Tritanium. We see the rise in the general rising trend in Pyrite as well, and a general flat trend in Knox IAM, supported by some pretty low buy orders and general stability in Zydrene and Megasite. Though Megasite could fall even further, looking at those buy spreads. Moving on to fuel. Again, same thing I've been saying for the last few weeks. I should probably think of a different way to present this data. We keep seeing the Caldari isotopes stay high, though they've come off their 900 peak and are still staying above 850. And then every other isotope just staying at the same price, eking down to 700. Again, I don't know why more people aren't mining it. I don't know why it's not coming back to high sec from null sec. I have a hard time believing that it's really getting consumed by capitals, and at that kind of price, if you're running a dual reaction tower, I would start wondering if I'm really doing the right thing. Especially, we'll talk about that in a few slides here, that I'm having a hard time believing that as a moon miner, you're really making a lot of money at this point. And again, fuel blocks, not a lot of action. We're seeing Mimitar fuel blocks are a bit hotter than they should be. Amar fuel blocks are a little cooler than they should be. Caldari fuel blocks are staying right where they should. Next, we go on to outlier analysis. We start where we start every week with the advanced materials look. We saw some downward pressure in the carbonites last week, and that looks to have stabilized. We saw some action in fulleриdes, which is still falling, but it looks like it may settle at a higher spot than I was anticipating. And generally we're seeing a lot of downward trends. We were seeing downward trends in the low ends, and we're starting to see downward trends in the medium complexity reactions like fulleриdes, phenolic composites, silicuramic fibers. We're still seeing decent amount of strength in nanotransistors and metamaterials, but again, I'm not sure that if you're running a reaction tower that the calculus, you might want to keep a close eye on your numbers, because things could be turning around here pretty soon. It doesn't look like there's enough demand to really keep the prices as high as they have been over the last month or so. And again, if we look at fulleриdes, we saw this huge spike over the RSI line and coming back down. Again, I think we might settle in still at a spot north of 600, maybe 650. So I wouldn't completely sell all of my fulleриdes. Well, I'd sell them now while the getting's good, but I don't think the floor is going to come back down to the 580 mark it was before. And then the one we've been tracking for the last few weeks, ceramic fibers, just keeps on dropping. It looks like we may have stumbled across a floor at 230, but again, that's a really hard prediction to make. I don't have the production numbers handy right this second, but if I were a moon reactor, I'd be trying to get out of this as fast as humanly possible. And then if we look at actual moon products, hafnium has been tracking down and took a huge dip. This is probably already corrected by now, but it'd be a decent chance to buy in if you need it. But I'm not really sure I'm not really sure where it's going. That particular bump down to 6K looks like maybe some flubbed buy order burning. It's hard to say. I'd need another 2 days of data to really tell you where it's going. Moving on to PI markets, we're seeing enriched uranium was trending high and now is starting to lose momentum. This would be a great chance to stock up if you need it. It's a little too late to be selling any of it. I think I told you guys to sell it last week. I honestly don't remember. And as we dip below the 10.5K mark, I think it still has room to fall down to almost 10K, but I'm not sure when it will rebound. We see these we see these fuel products do a little bit of the back and forth. And if we look at mechanical parts are on the rise but falling. So if you bought in, now is the time to sell, like literally right this second. But again, I'm having a hard time getting onto the bandwagon that the pattern will repeat. I think that we may be seeing a lot more accounts coming back through the Vegas news. There's sort of an air of hype going around. There's been a lot of new bros stuff coming up through the Eve Reddit. There's been I know Johnny Pugh has been running a Vet's First Impressions kind of thing where he goes through the new experiences, the new player experience, and so I'm wondering if we'll see a decent resurgence over the course of November going into the holidays. So we'll have to keep tuned for the Vegas. I think Vegas is going to set the tone for the next month or so. Moving on to ships. Ships have been weird. There's a lot of weird flags this week, and we're going to start with Tech 3 cruisers. We've been watching these for the last couple of weeks. Loki is staying high, so if you're a producer, I would be trying to sell out of those positions as fast as possible. I don't know if it can really keep up at this 200, 190 mark. The Tengu is tracking back down. I don't know if it's going to go all the way back down to 160 million, but it's staying relatively strong. The Proteus just keeps on trucking. It looks like it's trending to go up again, but I'm having a really hard time getting behind a Tech 3 cruiser that costs more than 200 million. The Legion also has been showing some spikiness, so again, I would keep a close eye on this. I think this is a great chance for producers to make some money. I don't know if there's any room for speculators at this moment. If you could somehow get your hands on 160 or 150 million ISK T3, I think you should go do it. But I don't know if that action actually exists right now. Next, if we go look at the Navy battlecruisers, I didn't track the normal battle cruisers. We only tracked a couple of them. We'll get to those in a second. But again, we keep seeing spiky behavior, and if you're willing to get on the ride, this actually might not be a bad place to invest, especially if you have things like faction warfare loyalty points. We see the Brutix Navy issue spiking, probably some sort of buyout. Drake Navy issue again trending up. It'll probably trend back down again. I would buy it sub 200 million, but that's only if you're going to use it. I wouldn't buy it to make money off of it. The Harbinger this week triggered one of the flags for its reset right after the patch released. And the Hurricane Fleet issue looks like it's trending down slightly. And again, I think it's a decent buy, sub 150 million. But again, that advice is that if you need to use them rather than invest in them. Moving on to the Oneros, this was a little interesting. I've seen this spike a couple of times. I covered it way back in July, the last spike. But it looks like they're suddenly popular again. Now, I had been blaming any weird trend on the Amar succession trials, but I had been blaming any of the weirdness on the Amar succession trials, but this looks more like investing in a meta, and I'm not sure who's doing it, to be completely honest. It would take some deeper look at the news to really understand where all of those Oneroses are going, but if you can produce them, this is an excellent time to be producing them. Be prepared for a little bit of volatility over the next week. This may have it where it's rising, producers get greedy, it spikes back down, it spikes back up, and then the action's over because whoever was buying them out is fully supplied. But this would be a good one to keep your eyes on for the next week or so. And now one that's way out of order. The Harbinger that we just mentioned before, tracking up. Oh no, we mentioned the Navy version. Sorry. The Harbinger had been tracking up with the announcement, and it spiked with the patch. So I don't know who is using them in their meta. I don't know if this is going to succession trials. I don't know if this is going to somebody's PvP fleet. I don't know. I'm not specifically sure how they would pair with Oneroses. I'm not enough of an EFT warrior to really build fleet comps from scratch like that. But this one's pretty interesting to look at. Again, if you're a producer, this would be a great chance to make a few. But seeing as the volume's only about 50 a day, I would be careful about how many you really want to get out there. Another interesting ship tracking up out of a very stable space is the Vexor. A lot of Tech 1 ships have flagged this week, and part of that is because Tritanium and Mexilon are driving those prices. But the ones I'm highlighting this week are outside of that trend. So the Vexor right now is pretty healthily out of the trend at 12.5 million, and not sure again where this is exactly going. If you're a producer and you're in the Tech 1 ship market, it's a great chance to go pump out a few, make a quick buck. I'm not sure if this is going to stabilize or not. It's in an unstable spot. It's hard to build predictions when they're out there in the weirdness like this, but definitely another ship to watch. The Megathron is another interesting one. If you remember your history books, it's been a popular Imperium meta is the Megathron. We saw it spike up. Looks like it may have been a buyout, and the prices have come back down again. Again, I expect this to track the Tritanium and Mexilon prices as those rise, and we may see a second hump. I'm not sure exactly where, again, these are all going, but there's been a lot of volume moved in the last 2 weeks compared to weeks previous. Another interesting one, just when the patch hit, was that we saw a couple of the attack battlecruisers peak up. The Oracle, in this case, bounced up above the 90 million mark. And if we go look at the Tornado, it's still tracking up to 80 million. Not sure if this is in anticipation for structure grinding with the with the new Citadels and the yet unannounced exact specifics of how the conquering mechanics is going to work. I have a hard time getting on this hype train yet because we still have to see the... Hold on a sec. We still have to see the changes in capitals, and if Dreads continue to be a damage-dealing platform, I would believe that I'd rather bring a Dread to a Citadel Siege than an attack battlecruiser fleet, but attack battlecruisers are some of my favorite ships, so please buy them. They're awesome. So if we go look at destroyers, this was a piece of news I forgot to cover in the previous sections, so sorry about that. The news came out of Amsterdam or Eventi, I'm not sure which, that there's going to be a new class of destroyers that come with a micro warp jump bubble, and the mechanics sounds interesting. They're still pretty thin on details at the moment. Right now, for instance, the Cormorant is tracking up, but I have a hard time believing that that's in the group because it's more of a popular faction warfare platform because of the sniping than the expectation that it'll be upgraded to the new Tech 2. Also, I have a hard time getting behind, like, invest on a bunch of cheap T1s now to go and speculate on producing T2 later. What I'd actually end up doing is getting the blueprints for these ships, getting them into the research farm right now, so that when the actual announcement comes out and they're actually released, probably in December-ish timeframe, seeing as we haven't seen any art for them yet, that you jump on them then, rather than holding the bag now and maybe being slightly better off come patch day. So if we go look at the Dragoon, we see it tracked up to 2 million and is trending back down to 1.5. If you wanted to speculate, and if you don't believe me and think that people are going to actually come back to the T1 market to supply their T2 production, then sub 1.5 I think is a decent price for this particular... Yeah, sub 1.5 is a decent price for this particular hull. Same for the Corax. It spiked up on the news that there will be a new destroyer class. It's now tracking back down towards its steady state near 1.1 million. Anything sub 1.5 million I think is a winner, especially given the outlook I have for minerals in the upcoming months. Moving on, the Federation Navy Comet has been very interesting over the last 2 weeks. We keep seeing spikes and crashes through a pretty wide spectrum, and it looks like we're swinging back up again. If you have a chance to go cash out some faction warfare loyalty points, this might be a pretty decent chance to cash out if you can get north of 16 million. So it's tracking up right now. If you can get it over 16 million, I would be selling. If you can get it sub 14 million, I'd be buying. This is again in a really unstable spot, and this instability could wash out any second. So play at your own risk in this case. Moving on, another interesting trend we've been seeing, and my ship fitters in Aderon have been complaining about this one, is that the armor plate mods have been tracking up seriously over the last few weeks. We've been seeing heat since the middle of September, but the new buy orders seem to have pushed it even higher. And the price just keeps climbing. Again, this is hard to predict exactly where the ceiling is on this. It's particularly interesting. We're looking right now at the 1600 millimeter rolled tungsten compact plates. We also saw similar action in the 800 millimeter plates, though this looks like it's driven more by speculation and shortage rather than reality, because the looks like there was a pretty large buyout happening that is leading to the prices unstably high. So if you can sell them, I'd be selling them like right now, because I expect this heat to come right back down to 350k-ish over the weekend. Moving on, another interesting one is the Scorch Large. I should have mentioned this one a couple of weeks ago, but it slipped by. We saw the price spike pretty spectacularly, and it's been trending back down to its steady state. It's still above the 200K mark, and I would wonder about exactly where it's going. It's hard to predict a lot of these ammos doing breakouts of their stable spots that they tend to be in, especially on things like crystals. But I thought this was an interesting spike to see. That we saw such instability in such a traditionally stable product. Moving on to the Heatsink Tech 2, both the Heatsink Tech 1 and Tech 2 are tracking down pretty strongly, and it looks like that it may be that lasers are losing some favor. It may have been that they were too hot, and this is a great chance to buy in. Indicators say that this is a pretty decent buy-in point, but I'm a little unsure if it's really going to rebound or if it's going to just stay stable at the moment. I'm not really following exactly where that meta would be, actually, with as much heat in the Harbinger and the some other of the laser platforms, especially ahead of the succession trials. I would expect heat sinks to be more popular right now, so keep an eye on this one. It might be a decent buy, especially if you can get buy orders of them, but it's a risky buy. It could keep falling, or it could just stay stable. And then to sort of wrap things up, even though I think I have one more set after this, the Siege module Tech 2 flagged over the last week. And it's rather interesting that we saw a spike during the Amsterdam Event weekends, and we see it back down over the last week and trending back up again. I don't know if there is loose lips sink ships at those player gatherings. I don't know if this is just hype or if it's a shortage that some producers got out of it. It's not a ton of volume. You only ever need one of these at a time, so I'm not sure what's really driving the price, to be completely honest. I always build my own because I hate paying the markup, but I thought this was an interesting trend. Also, drone control units are tracking up pretty significantly. Again, these would be I've never seen a viable fit that actually uses drone control units. These are carriers only. They let you control more drones. The problem is that it gives up very useful high slots to some extra drones, and unless you're carrier ratting, that's kind of a bad idea, at least in every bit of fitting knowledge I've ever known. Again, this might be some leakage saying that there's going to be a viable meta because of the capital news over the weekend, over the next couple of weeks. But I don't really subscribe to that kind of tinfoil. I think it's just a localized high, and it'll come back down to the 70 million mark. And then another interesting one to go look at. Rigs. The Medium Nanobot Accelerator 2 has been extremely hot over the last few weeks, spiking over 40 million. And is coming right back down again. Right where it is right now, it could go either way. It could keep falling down to 30 million. It could rebound again. I think the action is specifically done. This looks like more that somebody bought out a huge chunk of the market, resetting the price, and it's trending back down. So if you are bought into this, I'd be selling like this second. The party's almost over. But I'd be also watching for it to dip below the 28 million mark to see if you could snatch some up on the cheap and follow through if somebody did have an idea about where the price was going. And on to the last section of the show, prediction reviews. We've been tracking for the last few weeks the Gecko. I don't think there's a ton to say right now. It's staying pretty stable at 95 million a unit. Again, if you want to speculate, I think you got to hold out for 80, 85. If you need them and you're going to use them, I think anything sub 100 is a good price and you should just buy them and use them. I still believe we're going to see this slide into the end of the year. We may see some more action around Eve Vegas. So if you don't agree with me, I this would be a really great chance to buy in at 95 and hope that it jumps up to 105, 110 during the Eve Vegas stuff if the carrier news is particularly good. I think that is optimistic, to be completely honest. I wouldn't bet on it, but I'm usually right 50-50 on these. So maybe this is the wrong. Maybe I'm on the wrong side of history on this one. Another one we'd been watching for the last couple of weeks is the Gala, and I had predicted that we'd see this ripple effect happen a third time, and I really shouldn't have, because two is it's not really a pattern until you see it three or more times, to be completely honest, and prices are staying relatively stable at the 270 mark. So I think 270 is a perfectly fair price. I don't know who's really using them in any meaningful volume, so you may be stuck at this 270 price for a while until metas change again. And then the other one we were tracking from last week was the Hawk, which spiked up spectacularly and overcorrected down. So if you bought on the overcorrection, good for you. You should go sell this weekend. For the 27-ish million it's settling back into. I'm not sure it'll spike back up to 30 million. I think that was just maybe Brave moving back to faction warfare land to lick their wounds. I think the action is done on this one. We probably won't track it next week, but it was interesting to see such a sharp overcorrection down to, you probably could have bought some at 25 million if you were savvy, and get them back up to 27 million over the weekend. So not a bad play if you ask me. With that concludes our Eve Prosper Market Show for this week. Again, I've been your host, Lockefox. You can tune in every week live at 0200 on Twitch and on YouTube. If you want to watch the show, all you have to remember is Eve Prosper. That gets you to Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and the blog. I invite everyone to tune in next week, especially live. We'll probably do a live giveaway and a YouTube giveaway over the next week or so. Since the show turns 1 year next week, and I'm probably going to have a couple of things out there. So tune in next week for sure. And also, I will be at Eve Vegas, and I'd love to come see you guys. You guys should tune in live because we're going to have therapy hour as soon as this is done. But I'll be at Eve Vegas. Come have a beer with me. We'll enjoy all the presentations and get to be live on the floor when the news breaks, because it doesn't sound like it's streaming. So again, thanks to everyone who tuned in live on Twitch and YouTube. We'll be back next week with more market news at 0200 on Friday. So see you all next week.